Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we've got some decks for the featured location, Bar with No Name. This was kind of a last-minute surprise. Normally we do not get featured locations on Fridays. They go live on Saturdays, but feels like this is a April Fool's kind of surprise. So we're getting Bar with No Name at a 50% appearance rate for the next 24 hours. So threw some decks together here to take advantage of this hot location to the best of our ability. Now normally I do like to cover decks for all the different pools, but ultimately with Bar with No Name, I don't think there is really any special way you should be building around it in Pool 1 and Pool 2. Kind of just play whatever decks you normally like to play, but if you're finding the bar particularly annoying, it could be worth teching in something like Scarlet Witch or Storm, so you don't have to deal with it quite as often and can kind of catch your opponent by surprise towards the end of the game. But you don't really need to build a specific deck for it, either just avoid that location or tech in some location removal. However, in Pool 3 and above, we do have a handful of cards here that can kind of abuse this location to help eke out a win. So let's take a look at those. The first one here is Thanos Zoo. So I played this the other night, actually using Kitty Pryde in this list over Nightcrawler before she was disabled from the game temporarily. But I really like this list, and one real nice thing here is normally we're putting the hood to 3 power with our Bast, but now the -2 power is actually a pretty big bonus, as it can enable us to just win the Bar with No Name. Though you will have to be careful looking out for opponents who might try and change the bar at the last second, like I previously mentioned. The other nice thing here is we have the stones with Thanos, so we can actually just use the Reality Stone to get rid of it if we want, so we can kind of play both sides of this location. And the rest of it, it's really just a very solid zoo deck. We have a good amount of strong 1-drops and things like Ant-Man. Bast buffs up our stones and other 1-drops. Sunspot in case we want to float some mana. Iceman for interaction. Nightcrawler can help us get into closed locations and has good synergy with Angela. Bishop really enjoys the fact that we're spamming out a lot of cheap creatures. Shang-Chi to deal with something tall. Azar and Blue Marvel to buff up our wide board. And Thanos mainly for the stones, but sometimes we just play him as a big dude on the final turn. Next up here, we have a junk deck. So this is all about putting junk on your opponent's side of the board, and we can actually make use of a kind of underused card here in Sentry. So if the Bar with No Name is on the far right location, we can actually guarantee slam a -8 power void, which should make it very hard for the opponent to win. On top of that, if we don't get the bar, or if the bar is in a different location, we can donate our -8 power void with something like Viper to make it annoying for the opponent. This deck has a lot of interesting ways to kind of clog up the board. Titania is another way that we can surprise make the opponent lose the bar on the final turn just by donating the Titania over to their side with one of our cheaper creatures. And again, we have the hood, so we have a lot of ways here to really try and use the Bar with No Name to the maximum benefit. Other than that, just a very solid kind of control-y style deck. We have Daredevil to see where the opponent's going to be doing on on turn 5. That way we can sneak in something like a Green Goblin or Spider-Man a lane so they can't play into it on the final turn. Debris and Polaris help lock them up quite a bit. Ant-Man's actually been pretty decent as well, since we often have fairly full lanes because of the things like the debris rocks. And yeah, Spider-Woman just kind of a tall threat to help close it out, dodges Shang-Chi, and is taking advantage of the fact that we're usually donating something to our opponents. Another thing we can also donate here is the hood if the bar doesn't show up, and we also get access to the demon to help win in the non-bar location. So very fun deck. I've played quite a bit of it without Sentry, but he seems like a really nice tech for the hot location. And the final deck we have here is Mr. Negative, the other negative power card we have available to us. Mr. Negative has always been a favorite of mine. There are lots of different ways you can build this deck. This has been my favorite since the last patch. We have a decent on-reveal package that's very benefited by the negative flip. We have things like Ironheart, Wong to double up the abilities. Jubilee is really good when flipped, gives us another negative draw as well. And White Tiger, so a lot of stuff that can take advantage of the Wong here. Fast is very nice, though you will want to keep in mind if the negative location shows up, you might not want to do that with Mr. Negative in hand, so do have to be a little careful about that. Psylocke and Zabu enable a turn 3 negative, which is very powerful. Darkhawk, even without any ways to buff him directly in the deck, gets flipped into a 0 cost for power. It's another thing we can buff up, or we can copy with Mystique. We can also buff him with the Bast, which is really, really good. Iron Man's good with that as well, and is our main copy target for our Mystique. 0 cost, 5 power, lets you win the lane pretty much by itself. And then Blue Marvel has just good synergy with the rest of the deck, and especially with Iron Man, and if we are copying it. So those are all our decks here to take advantage of the Bar with No Name hot location. I believe there's going to be another hot location tomorrow, but it's possible that may have changed because this one, I don't know. We'll stay tuned, but I'll have some more decks available for that one if it does release tomorrow. Looks like it's going to be Karmatage. And we'll be back to doing decks for all the different pools, but unfortunately for this one, there just really isn't a lot of stuff in the earlier pools that can actually take advantage of Bar with No Name. So if you really just want to do something around the location, you probably should just run a way to surprise get rid of it, like Storm, Scarlet Witch, or Rhino. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.